Despite government's distribution of palliatives across the state of the Federation, the Nigerian Labour Congress declared a two-day warning strike on Tuesday and Wednesday over increasing hardship and suffering caused by the removal of subsidy. The leadership of Nigerian Labour Congress had earlier in the meeting in the week boycotted another meeting convened by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mr. Simon Lalong, to avert the two-day warning strike declared by the Congress. Well, to look at this and, of course, other issues around the space, looking at palliative distribution and what government is doing at this time. What are the right palliatives? What should Labour be doing at this time? Talking about what they should also expect from government. I'm being joined by a former president of the Trade Union Congress, also a former president of Pengasan, Comrade Peter Esele. Good afternoon. It's good to have you on the program. Thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'd like us to start with the general story and the biggest story. Let me just say the biggest story in town. Yes, that's the tribunal and what happened yesterday. I just want to ask you, I don't know if you're a lawyer, I don't know, but I just want to ask you what you feel at the end of the day. A lot of expectations, but some say this will give a little bit of clarity even to investors to know that Nigeria is a bit stable. I want to know what your reaction is generally to this.
Well, my reaction was I didn't expect anything less from the tribunal. And then my own reaction would be, yes, it speaks volume to the stability in the country, because what people were expecting from across the globe is likely, whichever direction, if it goes the other way, there's likely going to be protests, mass protests across the country. There's going to be riots and what have you. But you notice the whole country is quite calm. And I will also appeal to everyone to sheathe their sword, and then let's face governance and let's see what the Tinubu administration will bring for the next 4 years. Because one thing is politics: you lose today, you can win tomorrow. APC have lost several times. Now they won this time around, and so I would also say that the other guys should just look at it and see this loss, learn from it, and then come back stronger. It's a lifetime thing. You win, you can lose today. You win another 4 years. Nigerians are very engaged now politically. So if you perform, you'll be re-elected. If you don't perform, you'll be shipped out. So that's just what it is.
Interesting submission there. Well, let's get to other issues now. And one thing is I would like you to talk about is the warning strike that we had a few days ago. Well, a lot of reactions have trailed this. Some say government has been trying to do one or two things. Labour will still be on the round table with government. I'll just like your reaction to this, because we saw that the TUC pulled out of this at a particular point. Even NECA, they enjoying this. So what is your reaction, maybe generally, to this too?
Well, my reaction first is, if I have to look at the TUC, I wasn't surprised that TUC backed out of it, because TUC, we have rules of engagement, we have templates. If you're on the table and it has not broken down irretrievably, you can go on strike. That is the TUC's way of handling things like this. So as long as there's still a window to negotiate, the TUC will always give the government the benefit of doubt and try to explore that window maximally. And it also happens that the current TUC president also happens to be current Pengasan president. So based on the doctrine that we all...
Okay.
If the internal dynamic says, let's go on strike, so they went on strike. But it's also good that they gave you the warning strike. And when you say warning strike, is that you're not going to completely cripple the whole country, but you just let them know this is what is coming if you don't listen to us.
Now, that meeting, let's talk about what has been done by the states. The government, that's according to NERC, will give 5 billion naira each to the state government, to some as grant, and I think some would be paid back, of course. But my question really will be, 2 billion of that amount has been released to states, and we see distributions everywhere, rice, groundnut oil, and all of that in various states. I want to ask you, what really do you think, or what are you expecting from the sub-nationals at this time? They're even getting enough money, more money now from FAC.
First thing I want to say, Labour and civil society, this is where they need to now be, this is what I think they should do. This is an area I think they should be interested. Because the labor movement is more like a federal system, whereby you have the president and the NAC, they take on the federal government. And then you also have the state councils, where across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, you have TUC chairman, TUC ESCO, and you have the Nigerian Labour Congress ESCO. So this is where I expect them to be interested in good governance. Now, the government releases 2 billion. The federal government has released 2 billion to each state of the federation, and outstanding 3 billion. I'm aware that not to, for the sake of inflation, that's why they're releasing it in tranches. So what are we going to ask ourselves? What is my expectation? If somebody gives me a bag of rice and a family of 6, that bag of rice is not going to, if we eat the rice Sunday, then it's going to take about 2 months. But if the rice is 3 times a week, you're not looking, that rice will be exhausted in 4 weeks. So after 4 weeks, what do you want? What do you expect the person to eat or that family to eat? So what we should ask ourselves is that there's the short term, there's the medium term, and there's a long-term goal. Good governance. In June, at the end of June, the money shared at the end of June was 785 billion from the federation allocation, which money meant for federal, state, and local government. At the end of July, the money shared was 1.9 trillion. So what you have between June and July, the money that will go to each state of the federation and local government jumped by 2.5. So almost 3 times the amount of money they are getting. So what we should be asking is, what is the federal government, state government, what are they doing with the money? The federal government is the macro side of the economy, while the micro side is the state and the local government. So where I live now, who affects me more? It's not the federal government, it's the local government and the state government. So the first thing we are going to ask is, what is the state government doing in terms of intervention? Is rice good enough? My answer is no. Because rice is something you take, and the next thing is this, it's gone. So now let's look at what Lagos has just done. Now you have the train that will take you from point A to point B in Lagos right now. So what that has done is it has taken care of the short term, the medium term, and the long term. So substantially, workers now spend more than 60% of their earnings on transportation alone. So the key here for government intervention, I don't like the word palliatives, because palliative is just like giving somebody 6 cups of rice. You are not solving the problem of hunger. You're only just making sure that he eats maybe probably lunch or dinner, and then the next day he can starve to death. So you're not taking away the problem. You're not finding a solution. So take care of the transportation system, the transportation need of Lagosians, for example. If you take care of the transportation needs, then 60% of salaries will be saved. And then you now take care. How do you now move to the next level? Of the 36 state governors, only the governor of Anambra seems to have come out with a plan. I've seen his plan, and I was impressed with his plan. He has short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. In the short term, let's focus on how to make sure that workers and Nigerians are able to move from one point to the other seamlessly and at less cost.
That is really key. And some are also talking about work days. Some states have come up to say 3 days a week, you work 3 days a week. But some are saying they want the federal government to also make a pronouncement around that. What more do you think government can do to help address workers' challenges or their plight at this very critical time?
I'm not a fan of that. You know, we are a grown economy, and if we start living our life working 2 times a week or 3 times a week for an economy that is so underdeveloped, then when are we going to work really hard for it? So my expectation is government should go ahead and take care of transportation, and make sure when you come and you are saying that, oh, let workers work 2 times a week, 3 times a week. First of all, we don't even have what it takes to have workers to work from home. I'll give an example. During the COVID-19 challenges that the world faced, how many civil servants were able to work from home? It was only in the private sector that you have workers working from home, majorly in the oil and gas, whereby I'm talking to you now because I have a functional internet. And I don't want to tell you the cost of me having this functional internet from this place that I'm talking to you. How many workers can afford to pay what I'm paying for this internet that is making it easier for me to talk to you? At the end of the day, you are creating more cost to the average worker. First, his productivity will decline because the infrastructure for him or her to work from the house is not available. So I don't think that is the way to go. I was reading somewhere where they said traffic situation in Lagos has reduced by as high as 25%, 25 to 30%. And somebody was saying that is welcome. I said, no, that's an indices that the economy of Lagos is in dire strait. Because when you pull out 25% out of the economy, what the challenges are coming. So that's why I welcome the governor's intervention in making sure that the blue line is functional right now, and people can move from, I think it's from my 2 to Marina. Somebody posted, I saw it on TikTok, saying that in less than 15 minutes. So those are the things that you can use to encourage workers and to enhance productivity. It's not telling somebody to work three times work from home when you don't even have the infrastructure to work from home.
Very, very interesting. Now, let's move on and say, what sort of conversation are we expected to be having now? Most of these vehicles that will run this bulk transportation, when we talk about gas-fired vehicles, electric-powered vehicles, and all of that, it boils down to infrastructure. That's what some are also arguing. How many electricity points do we have at the moment? How well are we harnessing the gas that we have in the country at this moment? Or are we still going to run these vehicles on maybe PMS or diesel? That at the moment, diesel is almost selling for above 900 naira. What do you think? You have an experience in that space. What more can we do to harness the opportunities we have in gas reserves in this country?
First thing first is policy direction. Once you have a policy direction, then you now have the commitment and the discipline to follow through that policy. What you will have is that you find out that in 4 or 5 years, we are where we want to be. So the first thing is there is the interim aspect of it, which I call the short term. What do we have to do now? Mobilize all the vehicles that you have. This administration is about 100 days old, and the administration knew from day one that they were going to take away subsidy. So you get vehicles from anywhere you can get and put on the street, and and when I use the word, you subsidize it. Because when you subsidize transportation, what you're actually doing is that you are subsidizing productivity. Because once people are able to move from point A to point B, then your economy is equally moving. National Bureau of Statistics have also said the contribution of transportation to the GDP has dropped by as high as 47%. So the engine room for any economic development outside of manpower is transportation. So your ability to have those buses on the road to move people first will tell the direction of your economy. Then the second aspect, we are talking about gas. Gas actually is, I don't believe what the West is coming to tell us now, that we all need to go green. So everybody's looking at solar power. No, we don't even have what that takes. And other people are also talking about green energy, electric cars. We cannot even generate power for ourselves, and we are talking about electric cars. So let's do what we know we have capacity for. Gas, CNG. Yes, there are CNG plants springing up everywhere right now. So that's why I talked about policy. What government needs is to inject funds, give loans, single-digit loans for investors who are interested in that area of business to come in and put their money too. And you'll be surprised how we'll have a lot of this everywhere in this country. And let me give an example of, if you have a car, you want to convert your car to CNG, actually it's going to, formerly used to cost you about 50,000 naira to do that conversion. Now it's going to cost you a lot more than that. It's going to cost you over 200 to 300,000 to do all of that. So that in itself is huge. But government can also come and say, okay, fine. Once we do all of this, we give out grants, and then government can equally come and subsidize that area. I believe in subsidizing productivity. So if you're able to subsidize productivity, then your economy will grow in leaps and bounds.
Great stuff. I'm still staying in that space, and refining comes up again, and we're expecting Port Harcourt refinery to be active, say towards the end of the year, or let's say first quarter in 2024. Comrade Esele, I know that you understand the workings of all of this, and this is different from what we used to have according to the NNPC GMD. This is rehabilitation, not the regular turnaround maintenance. And they expect that this refinery will become productive at least to a level to help reduce our dependence on importation. I want to ask you specifically what you think about Nigeria's refinery, where we are, where should we be, or where we ought to be at the moment.
First, I think the GMD of NNPC, I think this GMD will deliver. I'm not saying that because it was former vice president of Pengasset. No, I'm saying that because if you look at his track record, he's also the first GMD in ages to audit the NNPC account.
Yes.
It's also the first GMD to tell you that, yes, this is where we are not doing well. You know, if somebody comes out and self-critique himself, and then now give you a roadmap for achieving what he wants to achieve, I think we should give him benefit of the doubt. I'm very optimistic that maximum first quarter next year, but he had promised December 31st. That's what he had promised, and that's what the president of Nigeria said. But I'm going to give them a leeway. I'm going to look at first quarter next year. The refineries for Port Harcourt refinery will come on stream. And it doesn't, I'm not saying it's going to reduce your pump price that you are going to pay. If it's going to reduce it, it's going to be negligible. But the fact is that it's going to reduce pressure on FX. So that is what this administration should be targeting, to as much as possible reduce pressure on FX. Once we're able to reduce pressure on FX, because majorly what we import is PMS that takes PMS, diesel, they consume a lot of our FX. So hopefully the Port Harcourt refinery come up first quarter next year, and hopefully Dangote refinery also comes up. Also, we start seeing petrol, PMS, and diesel coming out of Dangote refinery, hopefully first quarter 2 next year.
Finally, I would ask you that what are your expectations considering the relationship, or how can we further strengthen that relationship now, particularly between Labour and government, moving on? Because we know that it's a process and there's a transition period, like we've alluded to. But how do you advise government to, make sure that there's that handshake between the government and the labor unions moving forward as we tend to get the positives of all of these challenges we face at this time?
Yes, the road ahead is going to be very bumpy. We are barely in what I'll call gestation period for this administration, which means the impact of this administration policy, we may start feeling it in 2 years. So what we are going to have in the next 6 months to 1 year, we are going to travel on a bumpy road. So what will government do? First of all, government need to be transparent. Secondly, government need to see Labour as partners, not as adversaries. And Labour also need to see government that way too. It's vice versa. Labour need to see government as partners too. They don't need to see that, we need to pull this government down. No, Labour shouldn't think in that direction. And then government must walk the talk and then keep its promises. Now, let me give you an example of promises. The president said he will come out with a policy on CNG when they were calling off the last strike. The president have done that. The president said he was going to do something about the national minimum wage. So the president is here to do that. So the president needs to do that within the next 45 days. That will engender confidence. The president said the Port Harcourt refinery will come up in December. And the president, hopefully, if that comes up, then that is how you build trust with Labour. And not just Labour alone, you also build trust with Nigerians. Once Nigerians start feeling that this administration they do what they say, then you have that confidence to walk through a very tough road ahead. But Labour and government must know they are partners, they are not adversaries. And that way we can start dreaming of the Nigeria that we want to see.
I must thank you for your time. I appreciate this. I've been speaking to Comrade Peter Esele, who's the former president of the Trade Union Congress and also former president of Pengasset. Thank you so much for your time on the program. We sincerely appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.